Hi there, I'm Kazak. It's been a while since I've done a video, but there's a new PTR, which means there's new things for me to talk about or to not talk about. It's going to be the case for this one. As far as DK changes themselves go, we don't have much to talk about. We got a slight nerf to our defensive power, but frankly, it was warranted, and I don't think we're going to feel this nerf all that much. Some people may no longer live web blades on Mythic Ansarek, but you shouldn't have been living that in the first place. So it is what it is. There's really not a whole lot to say, other than it's good that they are just targeting Frost and Unholy with this and not hitting blood for it as well. But what I mostly wanted to talk about for this one is the tier set and my initial impressions for it and the feedback I have at this time. Obviously there's no PTR up right now, so we can't log in and test this stuff more in depth, so this is going to be more of a high level impressions, what I think of the design, and to put it short, I don't think it's very good. I am rather disappointed by this tier set, and I'm hoping that they go back and change it. So if you haven't seen yet, the way it works is the 2 set is a shared set between all melee roles, and I think they maybe miscommunicated that at first, but what that means is all of the melee DPS, range DPS, tanks, healers, all of their 2 sets will be roughly the same. They'll all share kind of the same mechanic. And then the 4th set is where things will be more unique. So for Frost, our 2 set is based on winning streak. 2 set is your spells and abilities have a chance to activate a winning streak, increasing the damage of your Frost Strike and Glacial Advance by 2%, stacking up to 5 times. Obliterate has a 15% chance to remove winning streak. And the 4 set is winning streak stacks 3 additional times, while on a winning streak, your Frost Strike and Glacial Advance have a chance to cast Frost Scythe at 50% effectiveness. Frost Scythe now also benefits from winning streak. So the 2 big things I see from this tier set are more random rolling, hoping we get good luck, and more free passive cleave, neither of which are things Frost Death Knight needs at the moment. On paper, I kind of understand the concept of winning streak. You can sort of math out, on average, you'll have about X number of stacks, so that's going to provide about this much extra bonus to Frost Strike and Glacial Advance. So, we can kind of figure out roughly how much benefit that's going to provide. And it is worth noting, I am assuming that when they say Glacial Advance here, they are including the free Glacial Advance cast by Arctic Assault. If it ends up being the case that it does not benefit that, then this tier is irredeemable and desperately needs to be scrapped. The only thing that makes this tier set seem like it'll work well is that it'll benefit from Arctic Assault. And then the other big thing I see is on the 4th set, we have a chance to cast a random Frost Scythe at reduced effectiveness, which is necessary because Frost Scythe kind of trucks, and that Frost Scythe benefits from the winning streak. If the goal is to make us take Frost Scythe with this 4 set, this doesn't do it. The problem with Frost Scythe is that it competes with Killing Machine Empowered Obliterates for your GCDs. And we get so many Killing Machine procs, and we get so many benefits from casting Obliterate with Killing Machine. We're stacking our Bone Grinder, we're getting rune refunds through Frigid Executioner. Frigid Executioner is a multiplier on that Obliterate damage. We are really strongly incentivized to press that as much as possible, and when we have as much crit as we do, we are proccing Killing Machine a whole bunch. And so it ends up just being really hard to find a spot to fit in Frost Scythe, and we just don't have the free talent points to really make it happen. And talenting into Frost Scythe with a variable cooldown to try and play it around a randomly resetting buff is a really difficult sell, and I don't think it's going to stick at all with the current state of Frost. And then circling back around to the randomness point, just because I think this is important and it matters a lot for Frost right now. Currently, Deathbringer Frost is the only build we're really playing. Riders is perfectly fine for your weekly key farm, but when it comes to the competitive content, what people are playing 90% of the time, it's Deathbringer, which at this moment has the highest variability of any DPS spec in the game by a pretty hefty margin. I touched on that in the forum post I left in the feedback thread. Outlaw Rogue is at something like 5%, and we are at 7.2 for the coefficient of variability, which is just a fancy math term of saying that says this is how we compare variability between two data sets. Like Frost Death Knight with Deathbringer is just head and shoulders above everyone else. Obviously a tier set based around randomly activating winning streak and then randomly resetting winning streak is just going to make that worse. There's going to be no world where we sit on Obliterate so we don't reset our winning streak so we can get bigger Frost Strikes. Like, Killing Machine Empowered Obliterate is just too good. We can't sit on it because we'll start wasting procs, so we're just going to send it, and that results in a tier set where we aren't changing our rotation at all. We're not having fun with it. It's just going to be another layer of RNG and passive cleave in a spec that's already filled with that. What I'd really like to see is instead winning streak to stack and reset on the same ability, sort of like how you see on other spec. Unholy, for example, stacks winning streak on Death Coil and then resets it on Death Coil. That to me makes a little bit more sense. That feels a little bit more like, sometimes my Death Coils do more damage and sometimes they do less, but I'm still hitting it the same either way. There's no decision making, there's no implication that you're supposed to make a decision to, do I press Death Coil and press my streak or not? Whereas the Frost tier adds that implication. But when you think about it, you realize there really is no choice there. It works the same. The only thing I would like to see is some sort of compensation for losing winning streak. So like Unholy doesn't have compensation, but Unholy does get a guaranteed winning streak during its cooldowns. I think that's really good. Conversely, if we look at Ret Paladin, when they lose their winning streak, they get some holy power back, and for the next 4 seconds they can't lose holy power. Or Survival Hunter, which I really like, when they lose their winning streak, they get a bigger kill command on the next one, and it generates 3 stacks of Tip of the Spear for them. And if you're not familiar with Survival, Tip of the Spear could be viewed as kind of like their killing machine. It's not a perfect analogy, but it means that when they lose their winning streak, there's a little bit of a rotational impact. Now they're going to be able to change what buttons they push. I think that set bonus does it really well. Right now, Frost doesn't do anything particularly well, and it just makes Frost's existing problems worse. I really like to see the Force set just completely redone, and ideally with something that gives us some focused single target damage, because Frost is sorely lacking that at the moment. We have all kinds of passive cleave. It makes us really good at the start of the tier when ads are living for a long time, and then we just sort of fall off as the tier goes on when we get enough damage that ads don't really matter and they just sort of fall over and we don't do as much damage. Similarly in keys, it's a little bit different, but ultimately like good prio damage is what you want in keys. Like throwing out random passive AoE is definitely a benefit, but what you would prefer to be able to do is to say, here's the mob that has 3 times the health of everyone else. I want to make sure that guy is dying as fast as possible. So that wraps up my first impressions on the tier set. If you took a look at this and also didn't like it, please make sure you post in the feedback thread for the class sets on the Blizzard forums. That is the best way to make sure that your feedback is actually received by them and that they get the message that you're not happy with it. Posting a comment here or in the Discord, it feels good and all, but you can't count on Blizzard to read that, and I think it's better to put that energy to some place where Blizzard will at least see it. So whenever the PTR goes up, I will hop on there and test things and maybe have some more for you, but until then, that's all I've got, and I will see you next time.